famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com, and YouTube. I am John Kalaboukas, the Bouk, with my friend Paul Zubulake, Zoobie. So I am going to sing Meet the Mets, Meet the Mets. Come on and greet the Mets.
You got to do some work on that, John. I know you're
I know,
a
I
little
know.
under the weather, so we'll let you off the hook there. But hey, John, you deserve the kudos of the week. So we're gonna start off, folks, not with the typical way we do it with our wonderful NFL content. We're gonna start with baseball with Bouk.
So I was off by 2 days with my prediction because I was saying something big is going to be announced, and something big was announced.
Yes,
Getting
John.
Soto,
Juan
15
Soto.
years, $765 million, nothing deferred. He even got a suite out of it for his family, which supposedly costs like $500,000 a year with the New York Mets. The Yankees actually refused that. Can you believe that? They said it's against their policy. They make Judge pay for it, and they make Jeter pay for it for their suites. Believe it or not.
Right.
So,
The,
uh,
the
the,
Yankees drew the line in the sand with the sweep. That is a bizarre way to go down if that's the facts.
and what? No, it is a fact. They say that they said that they would offer it to him at a discounted rate. I'm like, what are you kidding me? You
Right.
went
No. My point was that if that was going to keep Soto from signing with the Yankees, that's
right,
what I'm
right,
saying.
right.
Right.
No,
That
I
is
know.
the reason. If that is the
Well,
reason, that is absurd. But if it
I
could be, who knows? We'll have
yeah,
to.
I don't think so because Soto's contract, he's allowed to opt out after the fifth year, which by the way, he's making 51 million a year. But if the Mets want to stop him from opting out, they add $4 million a year for the rest of his contract. So that's $40 million worth of extra money to say, oh, I won't opt out. He'll be making $55 million a year from the time
Well,
he's
I'll tell.
31 to 41. I don't think he's opting out.
So, John, I'm already coming out with the comeback player of the year, and that person is not a player. He is a player agent, Scott Boras, coming back from the dead after last year's debacle, where numerous of his clients ended up not getting long term deals. They're hitting the jackpot. But
They are.
ultimately, John, let's get to the nitty gritty. And I think this is something I want to put out to the fans out there. Uh, Go to the comments section. This is the question that I have. What year into the 15-year deal will the Mets be looking to trade Juan Soto? So I will put out mine on the comments, John. Save it for the comments. Put it on the comments. I hope some of our listeners and watchers. I know for the people who listen, they can't do it. I guess they'll have to go onto YouTube.com, right, John, and search
Oh,
Bouk
yeah.
and Zoobie to get the show. BoukSoosZoobie, and on Spotify. And on the world famous LIR.com, 927LIR.com. Please, folks, if you could definitely help us out by liking the episodes. It drives the algo. And we are a word of mouth show. And I think this proves it out, John, again, as we do take some time during our shows to pat ourselves in the back. This is for you, John. Congratulations on the call. You said it a week ago on this show that Juan Soto was signing with the Mets. And all those tickets are going to be hopefully flying off the shelf. And Met fans are going to believe now that this is the one piece. Unfortunately, we're realists on our show, and that's what we're going to be talking about is the complete roster that the Mets are going to come out with.
Right.
That's the important thing. It's not
Yep.
about getting Juan Soto. It's about the complete 26-man roster And are they going to spend money on pitching and not say we're tapped out for budget? So that to me is what I'm going to be watching.
Well, as I was texting you saying, oh, Soto's not worth this money, blah, blah, blah. We could get the. I realized that after he went after him so hard, this man doesn't really care about money. He's going to spend this year like a drunken sailor. Okay, he's been saying, "Oh, I'm never going to, be a
There's a
drunken
rebuilding.
sailor." Guess what? Because he had a taste of almost getting to the World Series, almost. So he is determined now. It's not going to matter because he's going to go after Sasaki. He's I'm sure that they're going to go after Mania. They know they need pitching. They have to get relief pitching. They're going to definitely sign Pete. I don't think that they're going to bring Soto and then have no one behind him to protect him. So I definitely think that they're
Wow,
going to get Alonso.
you do.
Um, oh
All
yeah.
right, so for the people like me who are going to say, what happened to the building through the farm system plan? I thought that was the new plan, John. What happened there?
Well,
That was not true.
listen, they have Vientos, so you could count one. You have Alvarez. You're going to have Acuna eventually at maybe second base. They're even talking about the outfield for him. Um, Brett Beatty is probably going to get traded if they keep talking about Crochet in the left-hander from the White Sox. I'm sure that they're going to ask for Beatty in that trade, and it seems like that the Mets might have the inside track on that now because right before this podcast started, the Yankees signed Max Fried for 8 years, $218 million, the highest um, yearly salary for a left-hander in history. I want to remind the Yankees that the guy's turning 31 years old this year. Okay, he's a very good pitcher, but to sign him for 8 years, don't you have another left-hander that you signed for 6 years, Rodon, who's been a disaster for almost the same amount of money? Crazy. I think that's a crazy contract. 8 years for Max Fried.
And he's had his injuries too, right? He is not
Yes, he
exactly
has.
right. Has he ever even thrown 200 innings in a season? So
I don't even think. Yeah, I mean it's and he's had he didn't exactly have the greatest year. I mean, I think he was 10-8, but he's worked $27.5 million a year, and that's insane. That's
well,
insane.
I thought the
But
Yankees would immediately go right after Alonso. I thought that was the way to get back right away, as opposed to Max Fried, somebody like that. Not to say that I agree on the length. They need pitching. Everybody needs pitching. But I just thought the Yankees would hit right back at the Mets and go right after Pete. You'd think otherwise. I think that's exciting. Again, I'm waiting for the final roster. There was a humongous hole in right field. We know that. Um, Hopefully he's going to play 150, 155 games next year. But 15-year deals. I mean, Albert Pujols, we remember when he signed it, and it's, obviously Soto's a lot younger than Pujols was.
well,
But
Pujols
that's
had
a
only
long. Hmm?
But Pujols actually had a 10-year contract that he signed. He signed. He had 10 years with the Cardinals, and then he signed a 10-year contract with the Angels at 31 years old. It went to almost
Right.
40 or 41 years. No, the one that you
That's the
could
deal I'm
really
talking about.
compare it to, the person that I'm going to make a comparison to, at the same age, but the
Machado?
same amount of years, is Miguel Cabrera.
Oh,
So
Cabrera.
Miguel
Okay.
Cabrera signed a deal like this with the Tigers. And if you look at his stats, he had 7 fantastic years with the Tigers. And then the last 8, he was a fat, overweight
Hmm.
DH.
Right.
So
That's what's
what
gonna. Well,
will
John,
happen
that's
with what's going to happen with Soto? Because if you
yeah.
notice, Soto, when he first came into the league, and really a little bit right before the Yankees, he's been I don't know. He's been eating some fajitas or something. He's getting a little chunky too now. If you notice, he's not slim, like really slim the way he used to be.
No,
So
he's filling
he's
out
only
his body.
26. He's only
Right.
26.
I think the biggest problem with Soto is he's going to have to cover a larger right field. He's going to have to hit in a stadium that's tougher to hit home runs. And can he withstand the scrutiny, right, and the pressure? Because and the
Oh,
good thing for Soto is he's got Lindor there, who just kind of went through the rough spots in the beginning when he started with the Mets, and he bought in quickly and understanding how passionate the fan base is. And now Lindor is like a beloved Met after how many years now he's been with them? 4 years, 5 years now? I can't even
yeah,
remember.
4 years. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years. So I think that's going to help Soto as well because people are going to, hey, it's a results situation here. They're going to expect immediate dividends and they're going to want to see effort and they're not going to want to see him loping down to first base and they don't want to see him loping down into right field corner when something's hit down the line. So hopefully he realizes that and plays his butt off and he'll be loved in New York because he's
Oh
a
yeah.
great player, obviously. So it's just that you just worry about the mindset. The length is just out of control. But Steve Cohen, like you said, John, he definitely does not
He wants
care.
his World Series.
Yeah, he wants it. So good for
He
him.
wants it
So as a
badly.
right, but what are they going to do? So it's going to be the little things that they're going to do over the next few months. So yeah, but obviously it's a good day to be a Met fan. And on the Yankees side, things like luxury suites, and that is just too funny. That's could get in your way. Who cares what your policy was? So it doesn't matter. Times have changed. So I don't think Derek Jeter or Judge would be, so they just don't charge Judge then, right? So
I,
Jeter, all right, you got screwed, Derek.
but and the funny thing is that there was a great article on how Cohen was really unsure if he was even going to get Soto. He always thought that the Yankees were going to get him.
Right.
But all the other teams met with Soto and Boris in a hotel. Cohen actually asked Boris if they can meet at his house, and it seems that he has houses in Beverly Hills and in Florida and in Connecticut. So he actually had him come over to Beverly Hills. Cohen made a presentation. His wife did. They brought her father-in-law, who's a big Met fan. Excuse me, her father, who's a big Met fan. Um, Mendoza was there. So I mean, they really did some presentation. I mean, they invited Soto and his family. So they made a really good impression on it. I mean, I think that was a brilliant move to bring him to his house. I thought
Yeah,
that was really smart. But the
that
the
is
bottom line,
seven
Paul,
hundred sixty-five million.
uh, as I said, if you remember, and I said it many, many times, Soto is going after the most money,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that's
proved it out.
exactly what he did. Yankee tradition, the pinstripes, the legends, all the crybabies now. See, uh, Yankee fans, once in a while, can you show a little bit of class when you lose something? It's amazing how many texts and crybaby Yankee fans are saying, well, we really didn't want him. And you know what? We're going to go spend that money on other players. And yeah, I mean, I've never heard so much crying by a fan base than Yankee fans. I mean, come on, give us credit here for once. Once.
Hey, John, go out and win games. That's it. That's what it's
That's
all
the
about,
bottom
right?
line.
Go out and
But,
win, fill out the roster. We'll see what the whole roster is going to look like because that's going to be important. So
oh, by the
starting
way,
five, John. Wait, what? Go.
no, by the way, I do want to mention that I give my ticket representative
Okay.
kudos because once I found out that Soto, was signed, I got a call. Do you want those tickets? I said, yes, I do.
You're a
So
man of your
I
word.
got season tickets.
So you're back in. John
I'm
took
back
last
in.
year off. Definitely was banging their heads against the wall a little bit as they went into the playoffs. But that's good news for our community partners as well. We'll mention them later in the show.
And he
Because
told me they
John,
were
when it's
super.
not easy to go to 81 games.
No, no. I mean, clearly. But the one thing that he did tell me, because he called me at 9 a.m., which is when they open, and he was trying to rush me off of the phone. I said, "You guys must be going crazy there today." He goes, "We're going to be here through the evening." He goes, "It's going to be a 12, 13-hour day straight." So,
Well, that's good news in Queens. I'm happy you're getting the tickets. That's something that hopefully I can make it over to Queens because John, we talked about, maybe going to the St. John's game together in Queens. Well, we'll get to that later in the show. But I've actually now figured out how I can get out to Long Island. I'm just going to jump on one of these drones that's flying around my area, and I'm going to hang on, and I'm going to say, "Take me to Queens."
yeah, I don't know what's going on in New Jersey, man. That's what
Well,
happens when you move to New Jersey. All the strange things happen over there.
yeah, exactly. And it's pretty funny because I was waving to a drone a few nights ago above my property. So it was pretty interesting.
Oh,
It's like,
really?
I'm not kidding. So, anyway, so yeah, that's a good way. Now I'm thinking that I can, on a regular basis, take the drone over to Queens and then go see a lot more Met games and
Oh,
maybe
you're
even some
funny.
games at Carnesecca Arena.
You're funny. You're funny.
What else
Um,
you got?
well, I don't think we mentioned to the uh, our fans last week, but Clay Holmes, the Mets ended up signing him 3 years, 38 million, officially signed, passed his
Right.
physical. They're going to try to make him into a starting pitcher, but I think he would be a perfect setup guy for Diaz. Listen, if it doesn't work, make him a setup guy.
I don't
Um,
get I don't understand even the desire to make him a starter. Make him like they need so much in the bullpen. You need so many arms in the modern day baseball. Why would you want? So he's only going to be a 5 inning starter. That's what he's going to be
I
then
think
at his
that's
best.
yes.
So what are you
Yep.
doing? All you're doing is putting more stress on the bullpen by making a guy who's not a starter a starter. I mean, it really makes absolutely no sense. And I guess the other big news, which I'm sure you're coming with, is the loss of Severino. Right? I
Yeah.
don't think we've talked about that either.
Severino, 3 years, $67 million. Not by the Dodgers, not by the Cubs, the Yankees, all these other, by the Sacramento A's.
Now, okay, that's a good question because where the heck are they playing? Are they going to be in Sacramento this year? Is that what they're doing?
They're going to be playing the next 3 years in Sacramento
Okay, and then they're go.
with the capacity of 14,000 fans. That's
Oh,
it.
so it's like a minor league stadium in
Correct.
Sacramento.
That's correct.
Okay, and then are they moving to Vegas? Is that what the plan is? Is that
They're
what it is?
moving. Yeah, they figure they'll spend 3 years in Sacramento and they'll be
Okay,
moving into Las Vegas.
that's what's happening.
Yep.
That is the story, and he is actually signed up for that. So there's worse places to live than Sacramento, I'm sure. But yeah, that's weird. Just put yourself like not even in the race, right? You basically are just getting the cash and not like that desire to pitch in the big game. I think he could have gotten a reasonable deal with the Mets. It's hard. I don't think they would have matched that sort of deal.
No,
So,
no, no.
but
But they
it's the
gave
A's. But anyway,
but they gave him the qualifying offer, which is 21 million. So you don't think maybe if he says, okay, you know what, double that, we'll get a 2 year deal for 42 million.
well, who knows what
And you're with
happened?
a contending team.
Well,
I don't
he took
know.
the sure thing. I would think they had a chance to get involved. They didn't want to get involved. They signed Montez, which you talked about last week. So yeah, John, it will be a little more exciting, obviously, for the off season for Met fans, and because now it goes on to Pete Alonso, I would guess. If you're actually confident. It's been
Yeah, I
very
mean,
quiet on that front, though, right? Have you? I mean, I don't see much reported on this.
no, I mean, if I were the Yankees, I would go after Alonso because you have a hole at first base.
100%.
And you put him with Judge and with those short porches in left and right field. Alonso, between him and Judge, they'll hit 50 homers apiece easily.
I think that's an
That would
easy
be a
counter for
killer,
the
and that would
Yankees.
kill the Mets. That would kill the
John,
Mets.
what better way? Because he could outperform Soto next year
Yeah,
from a numbers perspective, the power numbers. And it's not like Soto's a Gold Glover in the outfield.
no,
He's a hitter. He's a really good hitter, and Pete's a really good hitter too. And Pete did come through a lot for the Mets in the end. Incredibly, after
yeah.
during the regular season he didn't, but in the playoffs he had some huge hits. A beloved guy. I think that's a no-brainer for the Yankees, John. I'm telling you, if the Mets sign Alonso, and I get your reasoning for the protection. There's no, I mean, you're right. John, make get it done. That is, I think Met fans would be literally going out of their minds if they bring Pete back.
And yeah, well, I think that is, again, I could be wrong, but I have a good feeling that Alonso's coming back because
All right.
because the owner gets so much crap. You sign Soto for double the money that you're going to have to pay Alonso, because I don't think Alonso's getting paid any more than 25, $26 million a year. It's how many years are they going to pay him
Right.
is what I think. So
Yes, that's the problem. All right.
I don't think anyone's offering Pete Alonso $30 million a year to play first base for them.
All
So
right, John. Well, you are the Met god of predictions right now. So anybody out there is they got to go with Book right now. How could you go against them? So
but
keep it going. Do you have anything else on the baseball side? I mean, we
yeah,
always can
I mean we have a
revisit.
lot of
Yeah.
signings
All right, give me some more. Give us some
and I
signings. What do you got?
and I think Yankees, because they were fighting over Soto, actually overlooked someone that could have played third base for them as Adames. Adames ended up signing a 7-year, $182 million
I know.
contract with the Giants. I mean, he got top dollar, but you know what? His family's from Washington Heights, and the reason why I know that is because when he was playing for the Brewers, they happened to be in Citi Field, and I was sitting behind the Brewers dugout, on the field level. And who was I sitting next to? All his relatives. So they were busy clanging all these bells and asking me to dance with them every time he got a hit. And I said to them, "Where are you from?" They said, "We're from Washington Heights. We're his aunts and uncles." And I'm like, "Oh wow!" So he would have been, I mean, literally right across the river from Washington Heights. I mean, incredible.
Well,
Yankees blew that one. They could have gotten him. I mean, they need some help at third base. I don't think you can have Chaz there. So, excuse me, Jazz. He's more of a second baseman. So we'll see. The Yankees might pull some stuff out of the hat. Um, Conforto, the
I saw
man
that.
who 1 year, 17 million with the Dodgers. Okay,
All right.
1 year.
Good
I mean,
for still
um,
getting paid, but
he's still getting
he's
paid.
talk about playing for a winner, so that's a good spot for him.
Shane Bieber went back to the Indians, 1 year, 10 million, $16 million option. He's hurt. He hurt his arm. We'll see what happens with him. Um, Again, minor signings. I mean, Cobb went to the Tigers. Guy that I wish the Mets went after is Jordan Romano, signed with the Phillies, 1 year, 7,750,000. He would have been a good reliever for the Mets. I don't know why they didn't consider him. Um,
They
Really,
were
that's
busy,
about
John.
it. There was one trade, a very curious trade that the Guardians just sent Andres Jimenez to the Blue Jays for a kid Horowitz, who's actually was an infielder for them, had similar statistics to Jimenez, and a reliever. But if you look at their infield now, I mean, they got Guerrero, they're going to have Jimenez at second, and they're going to have Bichette at short. I mean, that's some infield. But I don't know what the Blue Jays are thinking about here. They need to sign Bichette and Guerrero, because they're free agents at the end of this year, the 2025 season. So imagine you have Soto that got this type of money. What is Guerrero going to get at 26 years old? Or
Yep.
Bichette? I mean, you're talking about massive contracts here.
The Mets have blown the whole league up. I'm sure the rest of the owners are dying with what's going on. It's definitely got to be a concern for the league that this is kind of happening. But when the A's go spend all that money, that definitely helps on the counter argument. So there is some activity. So all right, John, that's we got a lot to get to. There's so much going on. So good
Yeah.
for a good prediction. Again, kudos to you.
Thank you.
We will get to our NFL coverage, but I don't know if you want to, before we get to the NFL, I want to hear about the game, Kansas State against St. John's, where my namesake Zuby Etchafor, he's really making a name for himself. John, we might have to try to get him on our show as a guest.
Listen, I was talking about Zuby last year when I was getting so upset with Soriano. The kid, you see, he actually, what he's developed this year, even more so than last year, is an offensive game. I mean, he actually is very,
Absolutely.
very good
Yeah.
underneath the basket. I mean,
Yeah.
he's agile. He's blocking shots. He's playing great. He was rebounding. He looks great
Yeah.
this year. He looks
They got a
great.
low
And
post scorer. Yeah, that's he's
oh
helping them in
yeah,
the low
oh
post.
yeah.
They didn't have that last year. And so what did you so I think we talked about it because Rick Pitino wore the famous sweater.
Yep.
My man Jerome Tang sported his own interesting sweater, which I'm sure he's going to burn after getting kind of blown out in the second half. So yeah, what was the did you go to Connor Secker? I'm like assuming you went. Did you
I
end up going?
I did,
You did.
and
Okay.
I did, and I was impressed with Kansas State the first half. I mean, they played St. John's pretty tough,
Oh, your
and
kid had six 3-pointers, right? One
yeah,
of the
this
kid.
kid
Yeah.
Hauser or
Yeah.
Hoser,
Hausen
whatever
or
they're
something.
calling him,
Yeah, he's a
wasn't he?
transfer.
Didn't he play for Villanova?
Yes, he did. He did.
He
Yes.
did.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
saying I know this kid from somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah. He
Yeah, but then
transferred.
he didn't do anything the second half because
Nothing.
he
They blew him out. Yeah. Good
well,
game. This was
Hauser
great.
himself, because you know what happened is I don't think they were really taking him seriously and they were leaving him so wide open. I'm like, well, who's covering this kid? So in the second half, then they switched off. They had a Wiltshire on him. Can you believe who they had guarding? Who they had this guarding Hauser was Brady. And I'm like, I'm screaming, and I said, he can't even guard me, and I'm 60 years old. Okay.
Brady Dunlop. Dunlop. You're talking about.
Right.
Dunlop.
Yeah. Right. That's what I said. Brady.
Brady. Well, okay. People, the fans might not know who
Oh,
Brady
I'm
is.
sorry. Yeah, Brady Dunlap. Yeah. Listen, he seems like a nice kid. His shot once in a while, he hits a three, but he cannot be on the floor. He can't cover. I mean, the players go right by him in a
Yeah.
second.
Not going to
He
get a
can't
lot of
move.
minutes.
He can't move.
He's not going to get it. And I think actually one interesting thing I when I was watching was that I think Rick Pitino realizes that Smith and what's our other the new guy Richmond they can't play together.
No.
And now he's basically saying, okay, I got one guy's in the game and the other guy's, and Smith is going to be the one who's probably going to get less minutes. And I think he realizes like, this doesn't work. And his best team is not having them on at the court at the same time and playing guys like what Scott, right? He's good.
Yeah.
He's got that great outside shot, and they're
Yeah.
feeding Zuby in the low post, R.J. Lewis and Wiltshire, right? So
Yeah.
that is, that's a good team, John. It's good to see them because Kansas State, like you said, is tough, big win. But don't you have any? Is there any props coming this week? I had rumors the
Well,
last week. So
I
what's
want to tell
going
you
on?
what happened.
What happened?
Uh, so walking in, they gave every fan a pin with it said 526 on it for Louis. Then they have a Uh, Actually, I can show it.
Well, okay, 526. What's the amount of wins? Is that what we're saying? What
Yes.
was okay?
Now they gave us a little cartoon of Louis,
There you
and it
go.
shows all his stats on the back. This was for everyone who came in. And they had a very, very nice ceremony for Louis. So the whole crowd during the game was going Lou, Lou, every time, especially when they went ahead. The other thing that I found very interesting is, that Smith, by team vote, they told them, listen, he was mouthing off to Patino in one game, and Patino left it to the team to give him the punishment. So they punished him by not letting him play the last game, and then Patino had him come in like halfway through the first half. He got a standing ovation from the crowd, so it was pretty interesting how they say, okay, you know what, we forgive you, now get on and play basketball.
He's a
So
good
it's pretty,
player. He's a good player. But I'm telling you
he
that
is.
I told you this in the off when they brought them both in. It made no sense to me.
Yep.
I think Patino's realized that himself that that's the situation. You think a Hall of Fame coach would know that. Let's see how he makes it work. And I think
Yeah.
that Smith is just going to play less. I think that's what's going to happen. But maybe they'll play them together. But yeah, anyway, so good game for the Johnnies. And
I'm going to show you some. So we promised last week.
yes, what do you
I was
got?
talking about a auction that I won. And by the way, the sweater itself was not a replica of what he wore that during that streak. It was what he wore after, believe it or not.
Wait,
So
okay.
it's not. Because I realized that when I opened it up, I'm like, what? They didn't give me a replica. You think I would win an auction? I would actually look at this. So this is actually a sweater that he wore after the streak was over. All right. Then
John, this is like the worst
I know.
disappointment since the Al Capone safe. I mean, I haven't been this
I'm
crushed since that
I'm the I'm
moment.
the I'm the Geraldo of Bouk and Zoobie, aren't I? All right, signed basketball by Lou
Okay.
Carnesecca,
All right, there you go. That's legit. There you go.
Hall of Fame 1992. And actually, I totally forgot about this. Signed.
Well, you got to
Oh,
get on the camera, John.
try. Here we go.
No, the wrong way, buddy. There you go. Another autograph. There you go.
Yeah, Lou
All right.
Carnesecca.
Nice handwriting, old Louis there. Well, that's
Yeah,
pretty
he
impressive.
did. Very nice.
Was probably
Well,
his like.
it was also when he was 84 years old.
Well, it's probably his cousin is, his nephew is writing the signatures.
But yeah, but this I was saying to myself, I didn't even bother looking because I just had it in this bag, and I'm like, hey, they didn't give me a replica. And then I realized that it was after the streak was over that he actually wore that. But I said, what good is that?
So
I
you're
could have put
telling me Louis Carnesecca actually wore that? That is a replica of
a
what he wore.
replica of
The
the one that he
sweater
wore
after
after
the
the
fact.
streak was after the streak was over.
That's fascinating. All right. Well, we got to move on, John. We got to move on. So we'll talk a lot more college hoops, folks. That's going to be one of our main things this week. Um, we just don't have the time because we got to get to the NFL and we got to get to the winter sports where there is more news on the ice, John. What a
Oof.
crazy week there. But let's go to the NFL. Let's talk about it quickly. We can go around the league if we want, but I just have to get to the Jets a little bit because I have never ever witnessed a season like this season. Each week it's just nonstop finding different ways to lose a game and all the little things that are needed to be done to be a successful NFL team. You watch teams like Kansas City continually to win the close games by doing the little things. And then when you watch the Jets play, they literally do all the little things incorrectly. and that's why they're 3-10. This, as I joked with a friend of mine, John, this may be the best 3-10 team in the
Yeah,
history of the NFL.
yeah. I mean, if you look at the statistics, they're 0-7 in the losses that are 6 points or less.
It's
Oh, and
it's
7. I mean, even if they were 4-3, they'd be in a playoff race right now. They would
it's re-
still be in a playoff race. I mean,
incredible.
it's just one up, and like you said, the, just the little things, just little stuff. I mean, one thing I don't think anyone ever mentioned it, but I mean, there's just so many different things that went wrong. But I mean, Rodgers played fantastic in this game. I mean,
Yeah, that
it was
was
a
the best
solid
game.
game.
Yeah.
It's a solid game for him. And you know what? Everyone could talk about, oh, he's 41, he's old, he's this, he's that. If you look at his overall statistics, his interception rate is very, very low compared to his touchdown rate. And he's,
Right.
he's getting a
Yeah.
decent amount of yards. I mean, we're not getting the Rodgers MVP Rodgers, but listen, it's better than what we've had.
Well, it just shows that you need so much to win games, and it was his first game with over 300 yards in 35 games.
Yeah.
So just to show where he has not been at a top level, he did show that he was moving, and he's going at telling critics like me that I'm not finished, and maybe he's not with the Jets, like I said last week, I still stand by it. It's inevitable based on his contract. But in theory, could he rip it up and they can agree to a lesser deal? It's possible, I guess. I don't expect it. The offense played really well. I think it was great to see that the young running backs definitely are going to give Brees Hall a wake up call. Is that, hey, we're tough, but guess what? We can run, but guess what? We're not fumbling. And that was something that that's the difference. So good for them,
And
Davis
Adams
and
played great
Allen.
too. Adams played
And
great.
right, the receivers had a good game. But John, ultimately, the little things at the end of the game
I know.
where in the situation, and there was a couple of really nice things to finally see. The Jets going for it on fourth down in the beginning of the beginning of the game, later in the game, not being afraid to go for it. And they didn't do anything crazy like on their own 20, but midfield, 4th and 2, it was great to see. Of course, they're out of it when they're doing it, so that was a bright spot. But it similar to these other bad losses of other games that we talked about last week at the end of the game, the Jets are in field goal range where their opponent has to use their timeouts,
Yeah.
and the Jets pitched the ball back for a loss of 4. Then he gets sacked. So instead of managing the clock correctly, where they should just have been focusing on how are we going to get into field goal range and leave the opponent with with the Dolphins no less, the least amount of time to score
Yeah.
before the end of the game. And then what do they do on that play where it was 3rd and long and you just had to get into better field goal range? Why are they throwing it to the side of the field
Right.
where Adams catches the ball, where he's just got to know you got to get down in bounds?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, he lets the defender kind of take him out of bounds and the clock stops. So why weren't they throwing in that between the hashes to force them to they would have no time to go. And instead of giving them like 50 seconds, right? It would have been like 18 seconds. And then, so that's the first, to me, disastrous thing that happened in the last minute. And then, lo and behold, the kicker, Carlson, who makes all his kicks, every kick is a touchback. Every one. Where you desperately need a touchback, he kind of semi shanks it. And they give up a return and they missed 3 tackles.
Yeah.
Guys coming, I think it was Tony Adams, came in out of control and tries to trip him up like on the 17 or 18, misses him, then someone else missed him, and the next thing you know, they're on the 48-yard line, John. And they
That's the
allow
Jets.
Tua threw 47 times in that game, and they allowed him to get into field goal range and obviously tie it. And then in the overtime, and of course, losing the flip, and the defense, of course, lets them march down the field
Yeah.
more, and then just simple screen passes to the tight end who didn't have a catch the whole game. Jonnu Smith ends up getting 3 catches in the overtime. The Jets never touched the ball and are now 3-10. It's just so ridiculous, John. And this week they're playing the Jacksonville Jaguars, so this will definitely be the Sunday to go do some Christmas shopping.
Oh yeah. Well, one thing that I don't think people remember, but what about right before the half, where the Jets had the lead, and they end up kicking a 57-yarder field goal.
Yeah, they gave up points at the end of the half too. Yep, yeah. John, the
You know,
defense was terrible, and just Tua threw the ball 47 times. Guess how many interceptions the Jets had? You guessed it, folks. 0.
you know who was
John,
very
it's just
happy with
amazing.
you know who was very happy with the
Yeah.
outcome of this game?
Yes.
His father Kay texted
Yes.
me and he said, "Thank you, Jets."
Yes. That's all you could say. The Dolphins live for another week. Oh, John, it's just and they play the Jets again up here in New Jersey. That was the 9th time they've lost 9 straight in Miami now, the Jets.
Yeah, the Jets haven't
John,
won
it's
in
just
Miami. They haven't won in Miami since 2014.
yeah, right. Well,
10
right.
years. 10
And they play
years.
them every year. Right. 9 in a row.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so
Unbelievable.
that's enough of them. The Giants don't even, and we're not Giant fans, and we're not going to beat. I mean, it's just, it really is unbelievable what's
At
going
least the
on.
Jets have a chance. The Giants have no chance.
It's
And they
just,
have to play and I think they play the Ravens this weekend, don't they? Forget it. Is anyone
so
going to
yeah. Let
show
me.
up to
Yeah, I
Giant
don't have.
Stadium?
Yeah. What was that?
Is anyone showing up to MetLife Stadium for that game?
I don't know. Yeah, it's. I mean, it's just. I just feel so, and you know how I am with the fans who attend games. I just the horror of watching bad football and just not going to games and actually it being a no-show. It's a terrible situation.
Yeah. Well, and there were
So
and to much to your horror, there were fans with bags over their heads in the Giants
Giant fans, yeah.
MetLife
Well,
Stadium.
I
People
called
in the
them out
Giants Stadium.
before, but this has got to be because this is something we definitely talked about a few weeks ago. The ineptness of some of these teams. John, the
Oh,
Jets are 3-10. That would normally give you a shot for the top pick. John, they're not even in the top 5. They're 7th. Vegas continuing to hold on. The Giants, they basically it's like percentage points on strength of schedule. There are 6 3-10 teams: New England, Carolina, Jacksonville, Tennessee, the
wow.
Jets, and Cleveland. I mean, can you the slop at the bottom of the NFL, John?
Wow.
It's unbelievable.
Wow. That's Hey,
So
listen,
yes, Giant fans, you still have hope to get the number 1 pick. The Raiders are oh my God. Besides Brock Bowers having, of course, like the year of the century, broke the all-time rookie record for tight end receptions after the 13th week. So there you go, Jet fans. I know
we-
Olu Fashanu has played well, but it would be nice to have a nice, great, Hall of Fame potential tight end.
and it's funny you talked about the Jets taking chances. The Lions, I don't know what they were doing in that
Well,
game. Campbell, you know what? We
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 talked
actually
about this.
spoke we
Yeah.
actually spoke about this. Campbell cannot do these crazy things because they were well within field goal range. There was no reason for them to go for an extra couple of yards. Okay. I don't know what he was thinking about this, but why would you do that? Why would you go for it when you could kick the field goal? You know what he was trying to do? He was trying to run out the clock so they wouldn't have a chance. But
Right. He had his
but
he
still, it
has
was a
his
big chance.
reasonings for what he
I
does.
know, but it was a big chance. You just go for the points and then take your chances at your defense with whatever it was, 30 seconds to go. That was
Well,
crazy what he did.
this is a theme that we're going to be watching in the playoffs. Is Dan Campbell? Is he going to be able? I mean, is he going to coach the same way again in the playoffs? And will it backfire? Detroit fans, this is right there for the taking. Besides the miracle workers in Kansas City who just continue to somehow figure out how to win games. I mean, it's incredible. It's so depressing because when I just went through those teams, company in misery, right? And it's really just it's so depressing not to be able to root for one of the top teams because there are some good teams. There's going to be some great games in the playoffs, and it's going to be real exciting, John.
Yes, it
But
will.
there's very little intrigue on like who's making the playoffs. Literally none. I mean, Miami or Indianapolis, like like whoever's going to be the seventh team. That these seventh place teams they're going to get wiped out. They're going to lose right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I mean, someone like Miami, they want to make it because their season looked like it was over, so they're definitely going to want to make it. But I mean, in the long run, it's going to be the same ending for Father K as typically it's been the last few decades.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs because that means that the Broncos are going to have to go on a real losing streak.
Yeah, no, it's unlikely.
I think all they have to do is win one more game and the Dolphins lose and they're out. I mean, that's
Yeah, I would think that's
same
yeah.
thing with Indianapolis too.
Well,
I
there's
think
4 weeks left. Yeah, there's 4 weeks
Indiana.
left. There's still time
Yeah,
because
but
it's
they have 8 wins already. Yeah, but the Broncos already have 8 wins. The
no, yeah,
the
yeah.
Dolphins have to win straight out and they have to lose.
Well, there's four left and there are two on the loss. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. You're right. It's the Denver. I mean, they're one of the great stories of the year. Yeah, all these teams. I mean, the Ravens are 8-5. Yeah, so it's the Colts and the Dolphins chasing the Broncos and the Chargers technically because they're both 8-5.
Right, right.
And the Ravens who are 8-5. So it does depend who plays. We're not like going through the schedule knowing that. And then on the other side, obviously the Lions, and then our old friend Sam Darnold. Oh my God, 5 TDs.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Oh my God, what a year he's having. I'm just looking at these standings, and the Eagles and the Vikings are 11-2. So I kind of left the Eagles out of that top echelon along with the Vikings, but you got to put them in there at 11-2, obviously.
It's
So
amazing.
yeah, it's going to be great, John. So yeah, Chiefs 12-1, crazy. Just yeah, the rich keep getting richer and the poor keep getting poorer on a weekly basis. The Jets are
Yeah.
just, playing out the string now. There's definitely been some no-shows, some great performances, and like the Williams brothers didn't seem to show up. Jamie and Sherwood had 13 tackles. Brandon Eccles actually, I thought had a good game.
Yes, he
With
did.
Gardner out. Eccles and Sherwood are they're unrestricted free agents. Yeah. I mean, it's just like the Jets. Only the Jets are going to lose some of their young players. Are they going to sign these guys? It really is. There is a nucleus there. There is talent on this roster, but it's just amazing. The coaching is it just shows. It just shows. They just don't know what to do. They're not good in the situations. I don't know what the heck they've been doing all year. And then obviously firing the head coach in midseason. It never works, man. It
Yeah.
doesn't work. It doesn't work in the NFL. The other sports you can get away with it. The NFL is a different animal. It's just a different game. The season's different, shorter season. Yeah, put so much into your whole scheme about what your team's about. And if you just change the head coach, it just never works. So they deserve their fate, John.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
All
it's
right,
gonna be.
where are we headed? I think there's only one place left, right? It's the old winter sports, right? So
Yeah, the
unless you have
rain.
something,
if you want
Yeah,
to start off with hockey, because
yeah, you have to.
two
You
big
have to.
transactions, Igor does get his money
Well, that's
finally.
funny, right? So if you were listening last week, I was talking about Igor, not like maybe like why didn't you get paid? Get it done, right? Because that just creates a distraction. The old Pete Alonso comparison, and the Rangers in a kind of a weird situation with their captain Jacob Trouba, who they try to trade in the offseason, and they kind of messed that up, end up moving him and his salary, which
Amazing.
was a really good move. But he is, he was the team captain. He's one of their few physical players. He's just not as good as what he was, and he was making too much money. So they move him to the Anaheim Ducks, and they have money not necessarily freed up to sign Igor because that's for next year and beyond, but they were able to get out of that contract, and Igor got his money. It showed up for one game. They beat the Penguins. It looked pretty good. They actually, guys like Mika Zibanejad played better. But then they completely U-turned it, and this is a homestand that they have. They're playing these games at home. They're up on the Kraken. There was a couple of games. Yeah, was that the game? It was 3-1, and then they ended up they lost 7-5. And then against the lowly Blackhawks last night, they lose again, and the Garden, John, is dead for the Rangers, and that is a bad sign. So times are tough, and you can't blame Matt Rempe. That's all I can tell you, right, John? He has
Yeah,
not been
yeah.
playing. They made that weird decision not to develop him and put him on the roster. He creates excitement at the Garden. The crowd really gets into it. I think he gets his teammates into the game. I just don't get it why they kind of buried him. I'm not saying if they had Matt Rempe, they'd be like at the top of the league, but this is, they are in big trouble right now, John. And it's hard to believe that we're going to maybe talking about them not making the playoffs. I mean, there's still a ton of time, but it's definitely a huge concern.
Yeah, they're not playing well at all. They're not
They look
playing. Like you
terrible.
said, no energy, no energy.
Yeah,
There's no energy.
they're gonna have to anyway. They blew it in the offseason. We talked about it. So we got to get to the other team, right? I mean, it's not the Devils. Sorry, Devils. We're gonna get to the other winter sport. I actually watched a little bit of the Toronto game because of my two ex Baylor Bears on there on with Jacoby Walter and Davion Mitchell for the Raptors, and they played the Knicks tough, but the Knicks they got some clutch players, man. They really do, right? I mean, you got to be happy, John.
Yeah, they're starting to play better. I mean, they I don't know what they were doing against the Pistons. I mean, that was a
Yeah, they played
dud
bad
of a
again. They
game.
threw right.
But you're starting to see a team now that's working together. They're passing the ball. I mean, they have many assists during the game. So again, Carl Anthony Towns is a great pickup. I mean, the man could do everything. He really is special. But Anunoby is, I think the people in Toronto say, okay, we got Quickly and we got Barrett. And Barrett's actually been playing very well for them. I
Oh,
think
he
he's
had a good
averaging like
game.
23 points a game. Quickly
Yep.
hasn't been on the court at all this year. He got
Yeah, he's been
injured.
hurt. Yeah.
So, uh, but Anunoby, I mean, imagine having two players like Josh Hart and Anunoby running after rebounds, playing defense, just throwing their bodies around. I mean, the Knicks, they need a little bit of a bench. I mean, we're waiting for Robinson to come back, but Precious Achua, they're blending him in now. I mean, he's getting his wings. Deuce McBride. I mean, listen, they're fine. I think they could go all the way. They really can.
And
They
you
really can.
even
I mean, they
mentioned,
show offensively that they could be unstoppable. I mean, they're scoring 120. I mean, what Nick team do you know that can score anywhere from 120 to 140 points per game? It's their
it's been a
defense
while.
that there's not many teams. I mean, and look at their players that they have. They're
But
stacked.
it's funny you didn't mention the maestro of it all, right? You didn't mention
Oh, what,
Jalen
Brunson?
Brunson.
Yeah, no, Listen,
He's good.
Brunson. We know. Listen, we know Brunson is the glue to this team, but just as a group, I mean, even Bridges is starting to play better now. He's playing better
Yeah.
defense. He's hitting his shots now. He's driving to the basket. No, they're a good
But
team.
and also the good thing I like about Bridges is he plays with a lot of joy, right?
Yes,
He's
yes,
into it. He's excitable. They've got a good match, but you're right. They definitely need a little more depth. And Robinson, that's probably the one. If he can, if of course, stay healthy, he's a good complementary guy to Towns. So and that's they don't need a lot out of him. That's what's so beautiful about the Robinson thing, right? Block shots, rebound. That's it.
yep,
You don't have to worry about scoring. It's just putbacks. And so the Knicks, man, I'll tell you now, I can't wait for this to happen because again, I mean the Cab looking at the standings, it hasn't changed at all really. And the Cavs and the Celtics. And so I can't wait till we get closer to the end of the season. You
yeah,
you can do your trash talking this year, and hopefully people don't fall by the wayside and get injured. That's the problem too, right? You've got the long season. So I
yes.
guess that they did beat the Magic, so they did advance in the tournament, right? So
Yeah, they got
God
to
knows
play.
when the next game is.
Now, the
Hmm?
next game is tomorrow. They play the
Okay.
Hawks, and
Okay.
if they beat the Hawks, then they have to go all the way out to Las Vegas
So
to
that's it.
play.
Yeah, you don't
I was
want
like,
that, right?
yeah. I mean, listen, they want to. If I were Brunson and some of these other players, why don't you just pool the money for the guys that are on your bench and give it to them? Because why would you want to go all the way out to? I mean, of course they want to go out to Las Vegas to play games over there too. Go and gamble in the nightlife. But if you really want to rest it out, just give the guys the money
Well,
and lose to the Hawks.
it's so weird. So how do they do it with the schedule? So the whole league leaves these Vegas dates open because obviously
Yes,
anybody in theory could have made
yes,
those games.
that's correct.
And then once you lose, they reschedule games? Is that what they do? They match
Yeah,
team. That's
basically
what
that's
they
what it is. I know it's very weird, and this is a totally useless
So do
tournament. It
we
means
know like
nothing.
what game gets replaced if the Knicks go to Vegas? I wonder if anybody's going to report that. How does that work? Like who's so if they go to Vegas and play the Celtics, that means the game that they were going to have if they lost is they don't know. Like who is that team
Yeah,
instead? The Hawks or
that's actually a
whoever,
very good question. Now I have to find out the answer. That's a very, very good question.
Wait, John, it's so funny because I was just like, oh, they should have the expedited replay. Oh, and by the way, quickly to get back to the Jets, there was a point in the game where the clock was moving and the game was stopped. And where was the expedited replay guy? What? So he can't. They're sitting there watching the clock going, and they can't do anything to add the time back. So a Gene Steratore comes on 20 minutes later and explains that there could have, and the Jets, like literally at the end of the game, every second mattered for both teams.
It's the
Why can't
Jets.
the expedited replay stop the clock and bring it back to the right time? What is the NFL doing, John? I'm sorry. I'm sorry to get back to that, but that is just too funny. It's like a mystery from week to week. Like you watch certain games, it's not a factor because it doesn't even come up. I still see the red flag getting thrown out sometimes. So it's like it just there's no the ground rules are like a little foggy. Allegedly there's a list of penalties that they can overturn, but they can't do anything with the clock for some reason. So I mean, it just really amazes me. So that's like a mini thing. That's actually something that I could have done this week, but we're gonna let you do it, John, because it's time for the rant of the week.
Thanks, Paul. So my rant is going to be a little short this week because number one, I'd like to congratulate Dick Allen's family because Dick Allen finally got in. Paul was correct with his prediction. And Dave Parker. They both got into the Hall of Fame through they call it the ERA's committee. It used to be referred to as the Veterans Committee. What I'm wondering, and what I think they really should change, is these guys have been through the regular voting process 15 times, 15 years. Then, if they don't make it, then they have to be recommended to this Veterans Committee. And you could actually go through the Veterans Committee several times. I don't even know how many times. It's so convoluted. I believe it's 5 times. They're putting these players in after almost like the 20th time that they've been through voting. And this is a little bit different with the ERA or the Veterans Committee. It's their peers that are voting them in. And clearly, I mean, I didn't know Dick Allen well enough. Paul's dad told Paul, and it seems like he could have been like the Juan Soto of his time with probably more power than Juan Soto. We both saw Dave Parker, and we both thought he was great. I thought he was like right on the cusp, but he was able to get in. The poor man has Parkinson's. He could barely speak when they told him that he got in.
Wow. I did not know
But
that. Okay.
yeah, he has really bad Parkinson's. Yeah. So my qualm is either you're going to put these people in maybe when they're alive or if they truly deserve to be in a Hall of Fame. Because if you're going through it 20 times, is that telling people, all right, really, you're on the cusp, but you're really not good enough? So that's really my qualm. I mean, a lot of these guys, like Minnie Minoso, they put him in. The guy died. Okay. What happens now with Pete Rose? Does Pete Rose eventually get in? The poor man really should have been in, but people have their own opinions.
Yeah.
Just, they got to make up their minds. I mean, I think it drags on for too many years because how can one guy get 25% in one year? Then it goes up to 50% the next year. And then 10 years later, 75%, and he's in. Okay. It's basically the same, almost the same group of people that are voting. It's all the writers. But, they need to do something about that. I think it's really unfair. I mean, Dick Allen died, what, 2 or 3 years ago, maybe?
Yeah. I don't know.
And
Yeah. But
and
he
he
did pass.
and I think a couple of years ago he missed by one vote getting in while he was still alive. One vote.
Right.
So
So, yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, yeah,
and and
it's a different sort of rant. Yes.
yeah, and speaking of people who passed away, so we actually had 3 major leaguers. I forgot. And let's see if you remember. Last thing, if you remember what teams they played for, if you recognize these names. Bill
Okay.
Melton. Bill Melton.
Bill Melton. I'm going to say the Brewers.
White Sox.
Okay.
Okay.
Well,
Al Fitzmaurice.
Al Fitzmaurice. I'm going to say Kansas City.
Yeah, very good.
All
Got
right.
him.
There you go.
Merv Retman.
Well, he played with a bunch of teams. I'm going to say California. So the Angels or the
He
LA
was, and
knows.
he also the Orioles. Yeah. So
Right. Right.
yeah,
Right.
they all passed away this week. So these are all players. We saw a little bit of them in the
Oh, wait,
70s.
John. Merv Retman, I've got about 75 Vern Retmans from over the years with baseball cards. So he
The
was one of those
baseball card.
guys that you would get like seven, whoever, with all the other famous guys,
It's
Mike
true.
Krukow or somebody like that, where you get like, the days of going to the store to buy, so when we were really young, we used to buy cards with the 3 packs where they were clear, right? So
Yeah.
people, John and I would go through literally the whole pack. They would have a box, and we'd go through every one to see who was on the back
It's
and the
true.
front, obviously, to see who we could get and to get the better guys. And we did a lot of that. And I'm still waiting to sell my collection, John. So that's something maybe when we're bored in the off season, we can bring out some of the old baseball cards, and maybe one of our viewers will be willing to make some bids on the comment section.
Well, you know what the worst thing was about doing that is, if you remember, so I mean, people have to remember we came from middle class families, so to order the whole entire set was a lot of money. I mean, for us, I know it was a lot of money for my family to buy the whole set. So they used to buy either the 3-pack or the 1-pack. And it turns out that we wasted more money by not getting the full set, because how
Of
many
course.
doubles and triples that we get of all these baseball cards? And you're going through it, and like towards the end, you're like, okay, I have this guy, I have this guy, I have this guy. And next thing you know, out of the 3-pack, how many cards were in there? What, like 40 or something like
Yeah,
that?
maybe 30, 40
Yeah.
out of.
So if you get 2 or 3 at the end that you actually didn't have, so
But
you waste.
John, yeah, it was all about the thrill of
I
going
know.
to cards to see who you got. Who cares about buying the season? A lot of people did that. They bought the season, they threw it up on a shelf. Hey, the good strategy for that is you get the rookie cards, right?
Right.
So baseball collecting is one of those things. One year it's the hottest thing ever. Then it goes into oblivion for like a
It's true.
decade. And then
It's
it,
true.
so now with this crazy stuff, the rating system, and I looked into it, John, because I have a lot of cards and I have some pretty good, pretty cool cards. But they're not rated, and you have to send them to a rating place. You give your cards to these people, and
Wow.
you have to trust that they don't steal them or whatever. They're reputable firms, or damage them or whatever. So yeah, it's one thing. Maybe we'll get a baseball card expert
Yeah,
on,
that
or
won't be
just
bad.
a
Sure.
regular card, because I've got some obscure basketball cards, NFL stuff. Because it was a little different in those sports where they would only have certain players would have cards.
That's right.
Baseball always had the uniqueness. Everybody got a card, and then the action cards, and which ones were the coolest ones, and the famous painted faces cards where they literally just some person painted like a sketch of somebody. I mean, there's really
Or how
some
about having the
stuff.
wrong person in the card itself?
Right. Well,
Not
sometimes that
even
gets
a
valuable,
picture.
right?
Yeah.
They're more valuable that way. And
I
anyway,
actually I
so maybe.
actually have I actually have a Willie McCovey card that says Washington Senators on it. They were supposed to move the Padres when he went to the Padres to Washington. So
Really,
I actually have the card of Willie McCovey with the Washington Senators. It's supposedly worth a lot of money.
really. Do you have it
Yeah.
in plastic? I hope, right? You have it all.
Nah. I had it in a shoebox like the rest of my cards. What do you
You got it. Yeah, I put my cards in plastic years ago, but John, they're still not considered mint condition. The only real mint, those mint cards, literally you never, it just goes right into plastic. Like you barely would even touch it. You
Yeah, yeah,
cannot even touch these cards because they'll look, oh, that's not a perfect card. So
yeah.
anyway, like I said, maybe someday we'll talk about it.
Yeah, we should.
Um,
Yeah, why not?
yeah, a lot going on. Exciting times for Met fans. And yeah, we'll just, as always, John, we're still going to be slugging out the shows and enjoying every step of the way. One last thing before we go, and you can thank everybody, is please, guys, on the comment sections, I want the predictions. How many years will Juan Soto make it into his contract when the Mets will want to trade him? What will be his? It will be 3 years from now, five, etc. Get it on the record. The great thing about YouTube, John, it's there forever.
Yes,
And
it
if you're
is.
in that comment section, it'll be there forever. And then 5 years from now, if Bouk and Zoobie is still around, maybe we'll revisit and talk about Juan Soto getting traded to Seattle will have a team again in 5 years. Who knows? All righty, John. Who do you got? What do you got? Who do you got to thank?
As always, thank you to our producer, Zach Zubulake, and to our loyal listeners and viewers. Keep the feedback coming. Keep the comments coming. We love to see it. Also, thanks to our community partners, Ronald McDonald House, Kids in Seats, and the Jackie Robinson Foundation. See you next week.